Welcome back everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make pulled beef using a chuck roast. Now we're going to be setting up for an overnight cook, so we'll get started by setting our smoker up. So we're going to open up our lid, take our cooking grate off, we'll take our heat deflector out, then we want to fill up our charcoal basket nice and full. Then we want to bury a couple of firelighters in there and light them up. Alright, so we've got about 10 minutes before those briquettes are going to be ready. Then we can finish off setting up the rest of this barbecue for an overnight cook. So while that's happening, we'll trim and season our chuck roast. Alright, so we've just got a 5 kilo chuck roast here. We picked this up from our butcher at Austral Meat. And we just want to start by removing any excess fat and silver skin. And you want to make sure you're using a good knife. This is my old Victorinox butcher's knife. This is almost 15 years old. And I reckon it's got at least another 15 years in it. As you can see, it's super sharp, does the job with ease. And the Victorinox range is very, very well priced. If you're looking at any knives, I'll put a link down in the description for you to check out if you are interested in purchasing one. But for now, we're going to continue trimming up this chuck roast and then we'll come back to season it. All right, so we're all trimmed up. We didn't have to take too much off. Don't throw that off trim away if you've got a mincer that makes for the perfect burger mince. But for now, we're going to get this seasoned up. All right, so now what we're going to do is give our chuck roast a nice light coat in olive oil. That's just going to help our rub stick to the meat. And the rub we're using is our steak shooter. But if you've got another favorite rub for beef, feel free to use that. But for now, we're going to get this chuck roast seasoned up. All right, so now our briquettes have burnt out. What I'm going to do now is place our probe just on the side there. That's going to be for our Inkbird temperature controller. Now we can shut our lid. And now I'm just going to take the top of our intake vent off. We also want to make sure our top vent is wide open. Then I've just made an adapter with some parts from Bunnings for our Inkbird fan. And the end of the air hose just slots into the top here. And the other end just goes into our fan controller here. Then we can plug our power in and then our probe. Then what we can do now is go into our settings, set our temperature. We're going to run this at 225 Fahrenheit or 110-ish Celsius overnight. Then in a moment, that fan's going to kick in. So P1 is what our current temperature's at. T is our target temperature. And that fan's just going to keep pumping air into our intake vent until those two temperatures match. So once our temperatures match up, that fan is going to stop. And if our temperature drops throughout the cook, the fan will kick back in. So we can let this do its thing now, and we'll come back when we're ready to get this chuck roast on. All right, so we're ready to get this chuck roast on. I've just got some smoking wood ready. I've gone with some cherry and black wattle from Natural Smoke, but if you've got another favorite smoking wood for beef, feel free to use that. But for now, let's set the rest of this smoker up and get this chuck roast on. All right, so we'll open our lid. We'll get our smoking wood on, get our heat deflector in. We'll take our probe off for now, and I've also just paused our fan so it's not blowing air in as the temperature drops. We'll get our cooking grate on, we'll clip our probe back on, and get our beautiful chuck roast in. Then we'll shut our lid, unpause our fan, and let this smoke away. All right, so we've just had a quick tidy up. Our smoker's basically back up to temperature. I'm just gonna let this go overnight now. It's currently 10 PM, so we'll come back in around 10 hours, and I'll decide whether I'm gonna wrap it up or let it go for the remainder of the cook. All right, so our chuck roast has been going for about 10 hours overnight. Let's have a look at it. All right, so that is looking amazing. I can just feel that it's not even close to being ready. So we'll check the internal and I reckon we'll wrap this up. So we're at about 170 Fahrenheit internal or 76-ish degrees Celsius. So I'm gonna look to wrap this up in a minute. So what I'm gonna do is just move everything back a little bit. And I've just got a tray here with some Wagyu beef tallow. We're just gonna let that melt down and then we'll come back to wrap it up. All right, so our tallow has melted down nicely. So we can get our chuck roast out and onto our foil. Then we can pour that beautiful tallow all over and wrap it up nice and tight. We can chuck a meat probe in there at this stage as well. And we'll shut our lid and let it keep going. And at this stage, I'm going to bump our temperature up to 250 Fahrenheit or 120 Celsius. All right, so now our chuck roast is all wrapped up and back in the smoker. We're just gonna let that go for a few hours until we hit an internal temperature of around 205 Fahrenheit or 96 degrees Celsius. At that stage, we'll start checking for probe tenderness, so we'll come back once we get there. All right, so we're almost 14 hours into this cook and I can see our temperature is dropping even though that fan is working hard. So that's an indication our charcoal basket is running out. So let's quickly open up our smoker and top up our charcoal basket. All right, so we're gonna open our lid, take our cooking grate off, take our heat deflector out, then we'll top it up. Now to make this super quick, I'm just going to hit those briquettes with my grill gun. All right, and after about a minute, those briquettes are lit. So we'll get our heat deflector back in, then our cooking grate, then we'll shut our lid, and turn our fan back on. All right, so we've hit that 205 Fahrenheit or 96 degrees Celsius internal mark. So we'll just unwrap the top and have a probe around. All right, that's feeling quite nice actually. So we can take that out and bring it over to our cutting board. All right, so all I'm gonna do with our chuck roast now is let that steam off for a few minutes to stop that cooking process. Then I'm gonna wrap it back up and we'll let it rest. So once it's had a rest, we'll come back, pull it apart, and I'll show you how I'm gonna serve it. All right, now I'll show you how we're gonna serve it up. We're gonna start by toasting a nice brioche roll. All right, that's nice and toasted. Then we're gonna fry off some brown onion, red and green capsicum. All right, then once that's browned off and softened a bit, we can add some of our pulled beef. Then we just want to get it all nice and uniform, and we can add some provolone cheese. Then I'm just going to squirt a bit of water down in our pan, put a tray over the top, and that's going to melt our cheese. All right, and after about 30 seconds, we can take our tray off. Our cheese is melted nicely, and now we just want to carefully scrape it all up into our bun. Just like so. How good does that look? Now it's time to taste. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, there you have it. There's a stress-free way to make pulled beef out of a chuck roast. I'll put everything we used in the video down in the video description for you to check out. And that's a super tasty way to use up some leftover pulled beef. So that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you've subscribed to our channel and turned that bell notification on so you don't miss our next videos. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.